stories had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think that's a pretty good definition. Because without those three elements, it's really just somebody talking, and that doesn't really count as a story for me. I think a story has to have a setup and a payoff, much like a joke.
Hey, I'm Ben, and I have a really important question for you. These aren't my 60-second Sunday clips. These aren't my... Well, that's really all I do with involved questions. But what is a story to you? To me, a story is... Well, I can't define it without using the word story, but it's a series of events that you tell. It can be a written story, like The Christmas Carol. It can be the story of today. How I went to school. I attempted to learn. I came home and I mowed the lawn. I didn't actually do that, but it's a fictional story. So I went and I asked a few of my friends a few questions, which you will see later. I asked them, what is a story to them? What is the importance of telling stories? When's the last time they told a story? And how would they define a story? And I just want you guys to see how today's teenagers still find the importance of stories. Something that I hope will never die. And I hope you hope that too. Come join me as I interview, I think 3, 4, 5, a few of my friends, on their views about stories. In the perspective of a modern 2021 teenager, why are stories still important?
Stories are still important. If you really think about it, before we had any capture of written word for history, everything was verbal. Every story about what people believed and who they are and where they came from was a story. It was verbal. So yeah, now stories aren't such a big deal and aren't really thought about, I guess, but it's also still hearing the stories of my grandmother about where I came from, and there's just so much importance in history to stories, to see the perspective of someone else and to be able to share it with the world. And I guess to me, stories are incredibly important still today.
I mean, they're really how you get to know people. I don't think I have any of the relationships I have now without telling stories and hearing stories.
I do think stories are still important because, yes, we have progressed as a society, but that doesn't mean we can't learn things from people getting passed down. My grandparents have taught me so much through the stories that they've told me about when they were my age and all these crazy things that they experienced that I might not have experienced, or now, if I ever do experience, I know how to handle it better because of what they've told me. And stories just offer a way of teaching that is sometimes just hard to replicate when you're just lecturing, and it adds up more of a relatability. And it's also entertainment, so why not?
I think storytelling is important because everybody has a different view on life, and we all come from different backgrounds, so everybody being able to tell those stories of, how their mind works, I think is really interesting. And if we didn't have stories and we didn't have this view into the different opinions and the different, I guess you could say, backgrounds of people, I feel like life would be a lot more boring, and it just wouldn't be as diverse.
Awesome.
Thought-wise.
They're just good to pass down because then you can share what happened in your generation, and then you just share what happened so you can inform people and pass down, I guess, your culture and your traditions, so it's not forgotten what your generation is like.
Why is it important to tell stories, in your opinion?
I mean, kind of the same thing. Like, without stories, you can't really form the same kind of relationship that you can with telling stories. Because that's, again, how you get to know people. Through common ideals, common stories, common experiences. Like, that's a lot of the foundation of good, healthy relationships.
Well, I think it's important for peoples to tell stories, especially people who are, like, older than, like, people telling older, like, how do I phrase this? People that are older telling people that are younger, like me telling my sisters things that I've been through. I think it's important because you're able to share life experience and you're able to, I don't know, give them the opportunity to see things through your lens of life. Because even though you might not be the same person, it just gives them more perspectives and helps them grow as a person as you grow as a person.
So you can share with like your children or like relatives or people in general.
I think the importance of telling stories is to share those different opinions and to show other people what life is like from a different perspective. Because a lot of times we can get caught up in our own minds and just think that everybody works the same way that we do. But being able to see stories from another person's perspective, whether that be, you know, a crazy science fiction, action-packed world, or a more, like, quaint little family story, it's all told in a way that's different than your own way of thinking. And so being able to see, like, how other people process things, I think, is really important.
When was the last time you yourself told a story of any kind?
Well, okay, I tell funny stories all the time because dumb stuff happens to me 24/7, and I just think it's funny and I like sharing it with people because I like making people laugh. But I don't know, like really recently, I can't think of a specific. Well, oh my gosh, I told a story at orientation today. I told my experience at Lincoln to this girl that was younger than me, and I was able to like be like, oh, this is what works.
Probably 2 hours ago. Actually, no, that's a lie. 50 minutes ago at dinner. Literally the story of me saying, hey, I'm about to do this video.
Okay.
That's a good question. I'd have to imagine it was sometime recently, but I can't think of any specific examples. I don't know, I really like storytelling, and I think it's a lot of fun to be able to recall like all the details and try to make things as interesting as possible for the listeners. But I can't think of the last time I actually told a story.
Probably today, like maybe like a few hours ago, about my trip to Turkey.
Oh, here.
Yeah, I
Driving
saw a
from
dead deer. So
Why is that funny?
I don't know. I see it all the time. Just bad.
Poor dear.
Sad.
What does it mean for you to tell a story? Like, is there any significance behind it?
I mean, for anything, it's just being able to express yourself and to be able to share it with other people. You can read an article, but you can't always capture the tone and the emotion behind something in written word. It's something different about stories that can be expressed through your words. You can write "they yell" in a book, but when you show in your facial expression and you actually yell, when you're talking about that part of the story, it's a whole different experience. So spoken word is something that our culture is kind of lost, but it's a beautiful and really important thing.
Or what else is still important about stories to you? Or do you have anything else you'd like to add about stories from this interview?
Well, I think there's a lot of different aspects to stories that can be positive. Because, like, just think about all the people. Oh, I kind of talked about it a lot, but like how stories can help people grow and like teach people in a way that's different than normal teaching. Actually, teaching it, stories are a form of teaching.
I guess, yeah, you could definitely say I was raised on stories. I loved reading when I was younger, and I still really enjoy reading, but more recently, most of the stories that I've processed have come through film or like music, and those are both really great storytelling mediums because they come from such different areas where, like on film, a story, like you actually get to see it processing and you get to see everything happening. You get the reactions from everybody in the story. But, in music, it's just like you get to hear someone's voice and you get to hear an instrumental maybe, and that's it. So it's a very different way of telling stories that's much more personal in my opinion, and you can get a lot more just raw, like personal emotion, which I think is really neat and something I didn't like really pay attention to when I was younger. It's just something I've more recently started really caring about.
As important as it is to tell stories, I think it's also important to listen to them too. Because you can gain just as much from listening to stories as you can from telling. Like, it's really a two-way street. You gotta do both.
Awesome. As you saw from my friends, stories are more than just, these books that contain your childhood. Stories are, as a random stranger said, they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Your life is a story. Your day is a story. Your trip to Target is a story. Now, what stories are you going to tell next?